Welcome to another edition of the Sim Racing Garage. I'm Barry Rowland, and in this episode, we'll be doing part one of a two-part review process on the JCL V2 Sim Racing Cockpit. Now, this unit was sourced from DES Simulation of Canada, who is the North American distributor for JCL products. The first part will be the build video, where we take the cockpit from just some parts and some boxes to this finished cockpit over here. Along the way, we'll be discussing the parts and the hardware and the build process itself of the V2 kit. So let's get to it. Of course, we're going to be building the base part of the cockpit first, but I want to go over real quick with you the kind of hardware we're going to be using in the assembly. First off, these are really cool corner brackets that come with this kit, and I haven't seen this type. It looks a little different from what I'm used to seeing from most of the profile, the stuff that I order from 80/20 on eBay. This is a nice gusseted piece that has a reinforcing wall or piece here instead of just being a flat L bracket. That's going to make it stiffer, which is going to in turn make our cockpit stiffer. This is a powder coating, I believe, on here. It's not anodized because anodized looks a little different. Anodization looks different. So I think they've actually powder coated these for the colors that you want. They have these neat anti-rotation tabs. You can see them there, here and here, and they're on both sides. And that helps when you put this inside corner bracket in the profile groove and you bolt everything down, it keeps it from twisting this way, which again is just going to make our cockpit more sturdy. So we're also going to be using these cap head screws or bolts, and they have a 6mm hex in the top of them, but this is actually an 8mm bolt here, and that's a 1.25 pitch thread on there for those of you who are interested in that kind of thing. We're going to be using, as usual, my handy hex head little screwdrivers here, or drivers, and these have the ball heads on them, which I highly recommend you get a set of these if you ever do a lot of work with hex bolts or screws, because it allows you to get off angle and still screw one, which makes it a lot easier than a regular hex where you have to get it straight on to turn it. And of course, having a nice handle, rubbery handle on it, just makes it the job go a little bit better. And you can see I've got a lot of these brackets already ready to go over here for the base frame. And before I get started, I want to show you something very cool about the JCL kits. I've never seen this before. Typically I don't do an unboxing video. It's just not my thing, and I don't show you guys the packing that this profile comes in, but this is something totally different. Haven't seen it before, so I thought I would let you guys look at it. This is a plastic mesh that they put around each piece before they pack it into the boxes. Now I've got a lot of 80/20 profile delivered to the Sim Racing Garage, and I've never seen it packed in this. Usually it's some kind of a foam wrap or bubble wrap or something like that, and this is just immaculate the way this thing is packed. I've never seen it. When I opened the box, I said, oh my gosh, this is something completely different. You take this mesh off, and it does a fantastic job of protecting the profile. I've gotten some profiles in almost all the time when I get profile. I order it in the silver mostly, and it comes in, there's always some kind of a scuffing somewhere on a piece or maybe a scratch somewhere, and it's just the nature of the beast really with the 80/20 profile. They just don't pack it well enough when they ship it. But this is a different story. This is a different ball game here, and every single piece is packed this way, from the big ones to the small ones. And of course there's nothing on the end, because when they're butted up together, they're just got the shiny parts hitting each other, so it really doesn't matter if they scratch each other. But this, I've actually taken these, every piece I've taken out so far is just beautiful. There's no scuffing anywhere on it. It's just perfect. And I've seen a lot of profiles. The only reason I'm taking the time to show you guys this, that this JCL does a fantastic job with packing that. This should be used on all profile that is shipped anywhere in the world. And this came all the way from France, and it is just gorgeous finish still on it. Really something different. All right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to go to all the pieces we have laid out, and we'll start building the base. All right, now we're ready to start putting these brackets into the profile channels, and you can see I've already have them pre-assembled as far as I can get them. And all I'm going to do is slide them in these middle pieces, and then I'm going to, at least that's the way I'm going to try to do it, and then I'm going to slide these long pieces of profile alongside as these grip them. But I'm going to go ahead and put this one in and show you what I'm doing. I'm going to speed up the video so you guys don't have to watch me doing this over and over and over again. But essentially all I'm doing is taking that T-nut and sliding it in the channel. And you got to make sure you got enough gap. You see there how much gap I've got on that T-nut, so that it clears. You leave yourself enough space. You don't want it binding up against this, especially because this is powder coated black. You don't want to be scratching it up if at all possible. And you got to make sure my orientation is correct the way I'm putting this on here. And also, while I have this in, if I push down on this, you can see now I'm trying to twist this way. But if I push down, simulating all these bolts being tight, I can twist this and it won't twist in the channel. Again, that's because of the little tabs I showed you before when we were talking about the hardware bits that we're going to be using here. So what we're going to do is go ahead and put all these brackets into these profiles in the middle, and I'm going to speed the video up a little bit just so you guys don't have to spend 10 minutes watching me do this. All right. Okay, now that we've got all the fittings in, we're just going to go ahead and slide one side down and attach them as we slide it in. All right, so this back was going to be flush with the back, so we can kind of leave that there. I'm just going to go around to the front, and we're going to space these later on once I get everything kind of in the channels. Then we can move everything around and get it to where we want it to be. So when we come back, we're going to have all this assembled, and then we'll have it spaced where we need it to space and see what it looks like after that. All right, all the bars are assembled together, but we haven't tightened everything up. And when I do this tightening procedure, I want to make sure that everything is square, so I'm going to tighten up this back bar and the front bar first, and that should give me a perfectly square box. The cool thing about 80/20 also is it's easy to make things square because, well, we've got a little square guiding us in every corner of this base right here and any other pieces you ever put together. So they should be pretty much dead on square if we tighten these up correctly. What I'm going to do is start with the back and just kind of snug them up. I'm not going to get them really tightened down hard until I've got everything looking right. And I use this is a nice rubber handle, comes in handy for tapping. And I'm putting my finger back here across the back and making sure this profile is flush with the other piece of profile. And that's got it right there. So then I'll go ahead and tighten this up a little bit. So now this bar here in the center is just, you kind of, as you do the same thing with the 90-degree brackets, you're just going to pull it all in together. And this is really, it's easier to do on this side. So now, there's our base. It's all together, it's all squared up, and what I'm going to do here is go ahead and next what we'll do is put the feet on. So I'll just tip it up on its side, and we'll get the feet on before we start putting everything else on, and then I can actually get the cardboard out from underneath it so it won't interfere with sliding around too much when I'm trying to do other things. So we'll get to the feet next. Now let's take a look at the actual feet that come in this kit, and of course what we'll be attaching to the bottom of the frame. First off, they come pre-assembled. They've got the spring ball T-nut, got a washer sitting on top of this 13mm nut, and of course the threaded piece is going into this very hard black plastic, some kind of a urethane plastic. It's going to be actually the foot making contact with the surface of your gaming room. And the idea here, once we get this back on, let's just use a test piece, a profile here. So what we're going to do is just slide it in the channel like we normally do for everything. And then the foot, you see how it's in the channel there? Let me get it closer there. And then you can tighten the foot a bit. You can see I'm twisting it. It'll go into a certain amount, and then it's just going to bottom out against the bottom of our channel in the profile. So that gives us, let's see how far that washer comes down. So I'm thinking, and it's getting really loose there. It's probably getting ready to come out of the nut itself now. So it's pretty loose right there. But the idea is to get it to a point where it's adjusted to where our cockpit is level, and then we're just going to take this 13mm nut and screw it up to the bottom of the profile itself without, of course, turning the foot that I'm turning a little bit here because I'm doing this one-handed, and snug it up, and of course that'll keep this from moving anymore, and there you go, you have your foot installed. Actually, I kind of like this setup. At least it gives us some adjustability for the feet. Some kits I've seen come with just the rubber foot, and there is no leveling adjustability to it. But this one does have that, and we have 6 of them, so we'll have 3 on each side. What we'll do next is go ahead and get these installed and take a look at how the cockpit frame looks once we have that done. Okay, got the feet all mounted, and how I did this was just go ahead and turn the threads in the foot, just went ahead and turned it and tightened it all the way down until it bottomed out against the channel here in the profile. And then I tightened up the 13mm nut, and we'll just have to wait and see how that works. As far as my floor is pretty level here at the Sim Racing Garage. I tried to make sure that was done when we built it, but we're going to find out here in a minute if this works. Put that down. All right, get her straightened up. Oh yeah, no rocking at all. That's really great. Maybe even a little lucky. All right, so now that we've got the feet on and it's sitting nice and flat, the next piece we're going to put on here, this finish really is nice, is going to be the steering wheel columns or the steering wheel mount system. And next we'll just take a look at the hardware it's going to take to put that together. The profile we're going to be using for the motor mount is going to be these 2 600mm pieces, and we've got a crossbar that is actually a 700mm piece. Now here's how they're going to be connected. First, to connect to each of these legs, if you will, or uprights to the crossbar, we have these massive aluminum brackets here. Check these out. They are really big. I don't think you could get much stronger than this as far as a corner bracket. I've never actually handled one. It was like this before. Very nicely done. And not only that, but you can see there's actually, when they milled these out, they actually left some anti-twist sections in there. So this is actually going to fit right into the channel. Use my little demo piece here. He's going to fit right into the channel like that. You can see how that keeps it from twisting. I'm trying to twist it now and it won't twist. So very, very cool brackets here. And these are going to be the ones connecting the cross to the two uprights. Now we also have 4 other brackets that we're going to be putting on. And these are going to be for the uprights, attaching them to the base. These are also very nicely done brackets that also have the tabs. See how they work. There we go. Again, an anti-twist deal going on there. Very cool. And these are actually anodized. They're a little bit different than this. This is the finish here. You can see the finish here, this powder coating, at least that's what I'm calling it, because that's pretty much what it is, I think. This powder coating is a little bit different than what's on this. You can see the different finishes there. See them? Of course, in the video lights, they really look different. But when you're just holding them next to each other and looking at them, they don't look different at all, except for maybe the different sheens on them. Right. So this is going to go on like this. We got one here, and we're going to have one on the other side, like this. And that's going to be attaching this upright to the bottom frame. And of course we're going to be using, and everything, by the way, I meant to mention this, everything comes in a bag for each part of the assembly that you're going to be doing. So it's very cool. They got numbered bags. There's number 2 on that. Got a number 8 on this one. So it's kind of an orderly thing to do. So we've got all the bolts we need for this. We're attaching these. There's 4 for here, and we're going to have 8 for these big guys over here. So it's all in the kits, and we've got all that we need. So what we're going to do next is go ahead and put this together and get it mounted on the frame and see what it looks like. All right, motor mount is mounted, and I don't have it fully secured yet, so I'm not going to jump on it up and see how strong it is, but this is going to be a very strong motor mount. I wouldn't have any problem thinking it would not hold a direct drive wheel of your choice, no matter what the motor is. It really has some strong lateral strength, and that's no small part due to these huge brackets we have under here. It's just not going to move at all. And the brackets down here went in pretty well. The only issues I had with this is the screws for this bracket here, and they are the same length as the ones down here, but they're just a little bit too short. It would be nice to have another 5 mils, I think, on these bolts right here. Make it a little easier to get these things slid down into the channels. It's not like it wasn't doable. Obviously, I got it done, but that's one thing I'd like to see changed. Maybe some longer bolts up here for this piece. Other than that, it's all done, and we're ready to move on to, let's see, let's get the adjustable pedal tray built and installed. We'll just get to that segment next. So before we can actually build the pedal tray and get it mounted, we actually have to build 2 mounts for the front and the rear of the tray where it connects to on our cockpit. And I also had to make a couple changes here. I found this under the profile that is in the box for the pedal support, and it is the updated version. So the original manual that I pulled out, I was going from the design it had, and there's a little bit of difference here on the main bottom frame that we have to take a look at real quick. First off, here's the original, and you can see that it has the regular 40 by 40 bar across the front of the actual frame, and then in the back you can see it as the vertical. So we had to change that to, we bought the vertical and flipped that over into horizontal, and we changed the front from a 40-40 to a 40-80 and mounted that. And you can see how that's mounted here, and you can see how the back one's mounted also. So we had to make that change to the bottom of the frame, but no big deal. That was easy to do. So now what we're doing is making the mount for the rear, or where the hinges are going to hook up for the pedal tray. And it's pretty easy. It's just a, let's see, this is a 400 or 420 millimeter 40-80, and then we've got two smaller 160s. And the two smaller 160s are going to go kind of like this, and then we're going to flip it over so that the top of the pedal tray where the hinges are actually attached to the other side of this. And we've already got all of our brackets ready to go. So what I'll do is go ahead and get this piece assembled, and we'll come back and see what it looks like. The back crossbar support for the pedal tray is now finished, and you can see how that's looking. It's going to be very stiff and very solid, I'm sure, once we get it mounted. And while I was putting that together, I went ahead and put the front supports together too, which is basically just two 300 millimeter profiles that we're putting a bracket on either side that's going to fit on the very front bar of the cockpit frame. And there was two of those. It's going to support the other end of the pedal tray itself. So what we're going to do now is go over to the frame, and once I get this on there, it'll make more sense to you on what this is supposed to look like. So we're going to go over to the frame now and go ahead and put these on. All right, now we've got everything set up. We've got the back bar assembly just sitting here, and this is how the two front uprights are going to look. I don't have them spaced where they're supposed to be exactly just yet, but we'll do that once we get these things bolted down. Now, because all this profile's already bolted up here, obviously we're going to have to use these great twist in or roll in nuts here to get all these bolts put in. So we're going to put in 4 up here and 4 back there, and then once we have it affixed, then we can set the distance. So we'll go ahead and get that done. All right, now that we have all of these nuts in, you can see they went in pretty quickly and pretty easily. They strap right in and then snap into the channel. Very cool deals. So now what we'll do is we'll get our final measurements on the spacing. We're supposed to have 300 millimeters between both of these bars, and then I'm supposed to have some spacing from these brackets or the side of this over to here. So once we get that set up, we'll just finish tightening everything down. So the next thing we'll do is start assembling the actual pedal tray itself. Here's the way the pedal tray is going to go together. We've got two 340 millimeter 40-40 profiles. We've got two 400 40-40s and one big 500 for the front. We also have these cool looking already black hinges here, and they have like a nylon insert in them. So you can get a look at it there. So you can see the nylon underneath the snap ring there. It's holding it on. Makes it very quiet. So we're going to be mounting those up here on the front of this 500 profile. And then the other side of that will go to what we already have mounted as far as the pedal tray mount sitting on the frame already. So we have 2 of those, and we've got these nice flathead screws that are going to be going in there. So you can see they're already counterbored to accept them. So that'll be a nice clean installation. We are also going to put 4 of these gusseted brackets in this rectangular part of the frame. We'll have 2 more in the back here, and that'll hold everything together. And we also have these little brackets here. Now there's a couple of different ones in here. I thought I'd show you both of them. These are the ones that go on the pedal tray assembly, and they have, as you can see here, this hole here is pretty much centered, or maybe not even centered, but a little bit further down towards the groove here where they join. And this one over here is further out. So there's a way you're supposed to mount this. You're supposed to mount it so the one that's further out is facing out. So we're going to have one here. We're going to have, actually we're going to have 2 on this bar pointing this way. Then we'll have 2 more on the back bar pointing the other way. So once we have those attached, we're going to go ahead and just build this frame, get it all sorted to where it's bolted up like it's supposed to, and then we'll go over to the frame and see how those hinges are going to bolt up to the mounts that we already have on the frame. So we'll get to that next. Our pedal tray is now finished as far as the assembly. So you can see what it looks like on final assembly. And we've got our gusseted corner brackets on the back here and forming that rectangle up here on the front. We've got our hinges on. They went on quite nicely and look really nice. I really like the way everything's black, except for these. And we have, actually I went ahead and put these side brackets on because they're going to need to be put on because they'll attach to the front part of the, well, depends on how you're looking at it, I guess. But anyway, it's the part that's on the front of the frame. So it allows this tray, once we have it mounted, to actually tilt up and down. We have to have these slots in here to be able to let that action take place. But really looks good, and what we'll do next is we'll go ahead and go over to the frame and get this mounted on there. The pedal tray is now mounted to the frame, and you can see now what's going on as far as these back brackets that I put on here. They actually allow the pedal tray to rotate up from the rear off of these hinges, which really look nice. They went on really well. I like the way they did the flathead screws, so nothing is in your way except this little rolly hinge here. But to get this thing to move, I've actually have these finger tight. You just got to loosen both on both sides. You have to loosen both screws, and that's going to allow it to kind of rotate up like this. You can see it can go pretty far. And I would not use it this way for the pedals that I'm going to use. I'm going to keep it flat. But if I had a set of Fanatics, Thrustmasters, Logitech, something like that that had that leaned back attitude, I would just go ahead and use this, and that would straighten it out for you. Very cool the way they have this set up. And to make it go back down, we just got to kind of grab it here and kind of guide it a little bit, if you will, until it goes back down to the flat position. And then you tighten everything back up. And of course I'll tighten it back up with a proper wrench when I have it set up with my pedals on it. And that's about it. I'm a little tighter. So this is going to be a nice sturdy platform. These back legs or uprights are really going to support this once you clamp them down here. And of course the semi-rectangular box support we built up front here is going to keep it from shifting back or forth. Once I have this good and tight, it's not going to move at all. Really going to be a solid pedal tray, I believe, and I'm going to need it with these load cell pedals that we run. You put a lot of pressure on them, so we need something sturdy. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and come up to the top here and mount the steering wheel motor mount that comes with this kit. Now we're ready to put the mounts on for the motor or wheel system of your choice. And this is just a 160 millimeter 40 series. Not very long, really doesn't need to be that long. You actually mount to these points here on these brackets, so it'll kind of sit there like that on top of the profile, but we'll see it in detail once we get to that point. And it's got these slots like we had on the pedal tray so that we're going to be able to adjust the angle. So what we'll do now is go ahead and get this mounted to the top motor support and see how it looks. Here are the bars now that we've mounted them to the top cross beam, and I have them loose, as you can see, just to demonstrate that whatever wheel you're using, you're able to, and this is the beauty of all 80/20 profile cockpits, you're able to go back and forth with it so you can match the exact width that you need for a bracket, or if you're running like a Thrustmaster or a Logitech, to get these lined up to the screw holes that mount from underneath. Also, you notice that these are loose to where they can flop around a little bit, but they also, I just wanted to demonstrate the angle possibilities with these bars. So again, if we had typically, let's say a Thrustmaster, and those Thrustmasters are, when they're sitting flat, of course the wheel is really pointing up at an angle because they're made to be mounted to a desk when you drive that wheel. But when we have it mounted to our cockpit, of course that angle is really not what we want. We want it down flatter, and this lets you adjust that And it looks like, I would say, 15 to 20 degrees down, so the wheel doesn't have as much of an up angle at you when you're sitting in your cockpit. Very cool. And like I said, this is a very versatile type of situation here where you can mount just about anything you want to this. And once you clamp all this down, it's going to be very, very rigid. I don't have any doubt that we can put a direct drive wheel on here without having any issues, no matter what the motor size. The only issue I've ever run into, and that was when I had my stage 4 rig, and I had a very similar type of setup on that, is that the up and down flex of the crossbar on the stage 4 front area of the cockpit would flex if you picked up and pushed up and down. Not very much, obviously, but it would flex. So I put some more brackets, and you could do the same here if you ran into an issue like that. I put another set of angle brackets underneath these bars on the front part of the profile and clamp that down, and that stopped it. So again, using profile is a great thing because we can do a lot of things to make things more rigid if we want. We could even put more brackets here if we needed them. But I don't see that happening, and if I do see that happening once I get a direct drive wheel mounted to this, I'll let you guys know. Right, so that's how this works, and what we'll do next is get to the seat mount. And we're going to have some 80/20 profiles going across these two bars so that we can get rails set up for our seat brackets to mount to. Now I have some 40/40s that I'm going to be using. The seat kit comes with a 40/80, but that would have put me higher than I wanted to be for the seat setup that I'm going to be running. Again, another attribute to the 80/20 profile when you're using a cockpit, you can do so many different things, and it's easy to customize it to exactly what you need without having to drill holes and then tap threads and fabricate aluminum brackets like I did on my stage 4 rig. This is going to be a lot easier to get it set up to my personal preferences. So let's get to the next segment, which will be mounting the seat rails. Now for the seat mount. First off, the seat mount kit that comes with this cockpit is actually based on this 40/80 profile, a double stack. But because I want my seat to be lower because of the brackets I'm running, I am going to use this 40 series 80 profile that I just happen to have some of. And it's black. I get all my profile in black now. So we're just going to mount these instead. We're going to be using the brackets that come with the kit, which are the nice, again, powder coated black ones. So what we'll do is we'll go over to the rig and get this installed and see what it looks like. Now we've got the profiles pretty much where I want them, but again, really it'll depend on the seat width on where you're actually going to end up with these bars. I could put them all the way back here, up here rather, and make them flush back in the back, which I may do, or I might just leave some hanging out because I might want to do something as far as hang an accessory eventually off the back of this. So I might just leave this out a little bit and come back with it and leave some of that hanging out. It's a very short rig to begin with, so I'm not worried about lengthwise that much. But then again, that's the beauty of this stuff. We can do whatever we want. So let's go ahead and get the brackets in, and I'm going to speed this up so you guys don't have to sit here and watch me do this for 10 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever long it takes. All right, so now that we've got it pretty much set up where I want it to be, I'm going to go ahead and leave this alone because we've got this done now. And what we'll do next is move on to the shifter mount, and then after that we got one more piece, and that'll be the mouse pad that we're going to be mounting on the shifter mount. So when we get back, we'll be looking at the shifter mount configuration and which hardware we're going to be using for that. This is the profile we're going to be using for our shifter mount. And the shifter mount is an option that you have to order separately. First we have a piece of 4080 profile, and this is 500 millimeters long. This one is 300 millimeters long. And how it's going to go together is this end here will be bumping up against the actual upright that's holding the motor mount crossbar. And this piece is going to go behind it. And that's going to be attached to the base profile. And of course we're going to attach that here. And what we'll be using is our gusseted corner brackets. And we're going to have 2 up here connecting to our upright. We're going to have 2 down here connecting to our frame. And then we'll have 1 on each side of this crossbar here so that it will attach to here. Pretty simple really, and we'll go over to the rig now and get this installed. So now we've got the brackets mounted to our profile pieces, and I'm going to go ahead and slide these in and see how they work. Hopefully everything goes in smooth. And what I'm going to do is take this piece and slide it in here first, and then I'll bring the main support piece and attach it to the upright for the motor mount and slide it down until it comes into this piece. At least that's the idea, so let's see how it goes. Okay, that turned out pretty good actually. It was a little bit easier than I thought it was going to be. Of course we can mount any shifter we want to over here, and you can even put some crossbars over here to support a bigger plate that would maybe mount a shifter and a handbrake to. So this is looking pretty good actually. Very solid for a fore and aft movement here. I can feel it's really going to be tight. So that's really a great shifting mount. And what we're going to do next is we have the mouse pad to mount. And I think that's the last thing, is the mouse pad. So we'll go look at the hardware and the pieces and bits that we're going to be using to mount that. Now for the last bit of our JCL V2 cockpit build. And that's going to be this guy, which is our mouse pad. Now this obviously is pretty colorful with the JCL logo, to be faster. And it's white on the other side, so if you don't want to see that, you could actually just kind of mount it like that. Well, we're going to go ahead and mount it that way because the black kind of matches the rest of the black that we're going to have on our rig, obviously. So this is it looks like foam board at first when I looked at it, but it's really not. It's some kind of a hard plastic. You can bend this a little bit, but not much, so it's very stiff. And it's going to have some support here built like this. We're going to have a bar like going like this and teeing into another bar. We're going to have another gusseted corner bracket. It's going to go in there, and then on this bar is actually going to attach to the shifter bar that we just installed in the previous segment, and it's going to install underneath like that, and then this part is going to go into the shifter channel right here. And as this is sitting here like this, we have some other pieces, and they actually give you some Velcro that's going to go on the back of this and on this piece of profile right here. Now they also provide you with this little insert, and what that's going to do is push in all the way like that, and that's going to give us a flat surface. Insert went in to actually put our Velcro on. So we'll go ahead and put the Velcro strip on top of that right in the middle, and then once this is assembled, this will be sitting with 2 more screws that we have over here and some T-nuts. It's going to be sitting right here like this. So if I was sitting in the cockpit, or everything this way, I'll be using my mouse or trackball is what I use, because it takes up less space as far as having to move everything. Put my trackball here, and I'll actually have some extra room for things like my audio remote for changing the audio volume and things like that. But that's good to have a little extra room from other little bits that you might have that you need. So what we're going to do is go ahead and put this all together, and then we'll go over to the rig and slide it on. But we'll go ahead and put it together first. Our mouse pad is now assembled, and it's looking pretty good. You can see how the profile looks on the bottom now with the corner brackets attached, and now we've got this part is actually Velcroed. You can see the Velcro in there, so we can actually detach it later on if we want to, but it's nice and solid. I'll snug these down a little bit later on. I don't want to tighten these too much because we'll bend into this, whatever this material is, but it is pretty tough though. So all we got to do now is take it over to the rig and slide it into the profile and see how it looks. Now to attach this is a very simple affair because we've only got one bolt that needs to go in here, and I'm going to tighten that one up a little bit right there, the one that's already in. And first we'll have to put our nut in here, and it's going on the bottom channel here, not the top one, because if we put it on the top one it would actually be sitting up too high. So we're going to put it in the bottom channel. So pop that in. And have to get down here low and look at this when we put this on. Looks like it might have it. Now of course we can slide this in any orientation that we want, and we can actually move that bracket also further back if we wanted to get it, or further front if we wanted to hang further back. So of course, just like anything else when it comes to 80/20, all this is perfectly up to the user to how they want to adjust it. And there's really not a reason to really tighten this down a lot, because you're not going to be putting, hopefully, you're not going to be putting a lot of force on here. You're just going to have your mouse on here, or maybe a bottle of beer or something, but that should have no problem holding it. It feels pretty good. You can snug these up just a little bit so they don't put dimples in the plastic here. All right. Actually, I kind of like this. It's lightweight. It's got enough surface area to do a couple of different things instead of just a mouse. And of course it's very sturdy, obviously, with this 40/40 profile underneath of it. Well, that looks like to be about it. All we have to do now is put our little beauty plastic pieces in everywhere that it requires it, and we have a fair amount of those to put in apparently. You can see all of them that are going in there. So we're going to get those put on, and then we'll come back and, well, just do the final thoughts on this JCL V2 cockpit build. All of the end pieces are now installed on the profile, and I must admit it really does dress things up a lot when we don't have that silvery shiny ends messing up our nice black color, even though there are some silver brackets on this. And I really like this black color. Not that there's anything wrong with a gray colored profile. That's fine too. In fact, it's more scratch resistant because you won't see the scratches as bad. When you scratch the black, you would definitely see it. But this powder coating really looks nice, and I do like the black look. And again, with the end pieces in, everything looks great. We'll just do a quick little walk by here so you guys can see the end results before we get to the final thoughts. And that's what we'll do next. We're going to get to the final thoughts on the build of this JCL V2 cockpit. And remember, this is a part 1 video. We're going to have another video of me actually installing the pedals, motor, shifter, and seat on this and taking it for a drive and see how I like it as far as how sturdy is it. It's going to be solid enough, which I kind of think it's going to be pretty solid anyway. But we'll just go ahead and get to the final thoughts on the build part of putting one of these JCL V2s together. Final thoughts on the JCL V2 cockpit build. I really like the way that JCL packages their profiles for shipping. The plastic mesh covering did a great job keeping the profiles from getting badly scratched during their trip to the sim racing garage. I wish everyone would use this mesh when shipping aluminum profile these days. The JCL V2 kit was shipped with all the required hardware for a complete assembly with no missing pieces. Everything went together rather easily with no modifications required on my part. The adjustable pedal tray is something that will come in handy for getting our pedals to adjust just to the right angle for our feet. And the wheel and shifter mounts also have a large range of adjustability. The powder coated profiles look great, and the finish is really quite good on these things. JCL has done a very good job on the design and execution of the sim racing cockpit. Now let's talk about some of the cons of this rig. First, the price. A black V2 like you see here is $872 without shipping, and it ships from DES Simulation in Canada. So not really an entry-level sim racer's cockpit, but for the money you do get a very nice product. Second con, you still need to buy a seat profile kit. I would have liked to see the seat rail profiles included at this price. Next con is one I kind of stumbled upon. As it turns out, the profile that JCL uses on their rigs is not the standard 40 series profiles. They use a custom or proprietary profile. The standard 40 series profile has a channel width of 8.13 millimeters or so. The JCL 40 profile has a channel width of 9.91 millimeters. So the JCL brackets and T-nuts will not work on standard 40 series profiles. The JCL brackets fit nice and tight on their profiles, but the standard 40 series profiles with the anti-twist tabs are quite loose when fitted to the JCL profile. The JCL T-nut grooves are also wider than the standard T-nuts, as you can see here. So what this means is that you need to source your profile and hardware from JCL if you want to add some custom changes to your cockpit. I did take the time to compare basic pricing between JCL profile and hardware that is for the standard 40 profile, and it's really basically the same, kind of a wash, with maybe a little difference here and there on different parts, but really, not enough to make you feel like you're paying too much for the JCL profile and parts. But with shipping from France to North America, that might make it more expensive than if you were to source the regular 40 profile here in North America and have it shipped. Overall, I think this is a very good cockpit. As with most any aluminum profile cockpit, it is a very solid build. I'll be posting another video, by the way, following this one, that shows me attaching a wheel system, pedals, a shifter, and a seat to this rig. I want to break this review up into 2 videos due to the time spent on the JCL cockpit build video. So look for that one to continue on with this review. I'm Barry Rowland, and thanks again for watching the Sim Racing Garage channel.